Привет всем, с вами я, Janey, и это How Janey Learned Russian, and you can too. This is our course on the cases based on my book called Russian Cases Made Slightly Less Scary. We are finishing up our unit on accusative case, and today is the day you come to watch with pity and also interest as our bidnyashka, our poor thing, bidnyashka means poor thing, as he struggles with accusative case. And we just want to help him and just bless his little heart. He's really struggling. So this is a really great practice because one, it kind of imitates the classroom experience. If you were in a classroom, when you heard other students talk, you'd get a feel for, where do I stand in this class? Am I a bidnyashka? That's a painful realization when you realize you're a bidnyashka. Or am I the person that can kind of notice how Bidnyashka is struggling and maybe even help him out and correct his mistakes? I always love those students in the class that I can kind of have them be my, unofficial teacher's assistant and put them with some of the students that are struggling. So let's hope that today you're one of those unofficial teacher's assistants and you can go through and help our Bidnyashka. We're going to see some of these ways he's struggling with accusative case, and go ahead and leave comments in the comments below about whether you realized watching this video that you are a bidnyashka, or maybe you have some ways of how this bidnyashka's mistakes need to be corrected, and maybe you know the answers to all of that. Please leave your comments below. So let's go ahead and get started with our lesson for the day. So as you know, and I had ChatGPT generate this for me. Bless his heart. Look at how he's struggling here. Ya lublю rусский язык. But he makes up for with love what he lacks in knowledge, but that's okay. We're going to help him out today. Okay, so let's look at some of his mistakes. Real quick, as I mentioned, this is all based on my textbook, Russian Cases Made Slightly Less Scary, available for purchase over on Patreon, as well as if you want to get a classroom experience, come and join my group classes. Those happen 3 times a week at both the beginning and intermediate levels, and you can attend as many classes as you want for a flat monthly fee. The link to all of that is down in the description below. Okay, so real quick, our интересный кусочек информации дня is all based on places in Moscow. Куда надо идти в Москве, да? So this place is called Park Tsaritsino. It's a huge kind of estate. It was started long before Catherine the Great, but Catherine the Great was the one that saw it being built. And then what's super funny is she didn't love it and she just abandoned it, and it never necessarily got used. So it's a big, huge park you can go to. Now, I never realized when I lived there, I didn't know that things went on the inside, but now they do all sorts of receptions and weddings and everything. But it's this huge grounds that you can go to and just walk around, and it's really, really beautiful. So that's a really cool place. That's down on the southeast side of Moscow on the Green Line. What? Okay, so this is all in the textbook. Some of these questions I'm going to ask Bidnyashka are the tool inventory. I have these at the beginning and end of each chapter as kind of what you should be able to do by the end of this chapter. And by the way, you're going to need accusative case to answer these questions. So let's go ahead and start asking our Bidnyashka these questions, okay? And as you do this, you start thinking of your answer for you as well. Okay, so we ask Bidnyashka, какие книги ты обычно читаешь? Вот. Да, какие книги ты обычно читаешь? What books do you usually read? So, Bidnyashka, and I'll do a really great American accent. Я люблю читать книгах об истории. Okay, so this often happens. He knows that, he's aware of prepositional case, but he kind of is struggling to know what to put into a prepositional case, what to put into accusative case. So, how should we fix that, right? How should we fix that? That should technically be Я люблю читать книги, which is in accusative case, and it's not feminine singular, so it doesn't change. And then the thing the book is about is the thing that gets prepositional case. So, Я люблю читать книги об истории. Об истории. So, история needs to be getting prepositional case. Next. Куда ты бы хотел поехать и почему? Да, куда ты бы хотел поехать и почему? And he says, Я бы хотел поехать в Россию. Oh, this is such a common mistake. Хочу увидеть Санкт-Петербургу. Хочу увидеть Санкт-Петербургу. So, bless his little heart, наш бедняжка. Again, he has heard this phrase в России a million times, but that's for prepositional case, and we want to say go to Russia. So he should have said, я бы хотел поехать в Россию. В Россию. Remember, в and на can get either prepositional or accusative. If it's a destination, it gets accusative. And then he says, хочу увидеть Санкт-Петербургу. Oh, бедняшечка. Bless his heart. He knows that things in accusative case often get an ul ending. But what he's forgetting is that only feminine singulars get those ul endings in accusative case. And Sankt-Peterburg is masculine. So, yeah, so he doesn't need to put that into accusative case at all. It just stays the same. Я хочу увидеть Санкт-Петербург. Все. Okay, next one here. Let's see. Что ты любишь? Что ты любишь? Да? And then he says, я очень люблю русскую музыку. Again, a very common thing to confuse noun endings and adjective endings. He also says, также люблю, играю на гитару. Okay, so let's look at some of these mistakes. Я очень люблю русскую музыку. Okay, so those endings, bless his heart, he knows, he's aware of these accusative endings. He just flipped them. So it should be русскую музыку. Okay, then he says, также люблю, играю на гитару. Кстати, by the way, I'm writing a book on verbs right now, and I have a whole thing about the infinitive and how you cannot conjugate two verbs in a row unless they're separated by a comma. Okay, so in English, that sounds like I also love I play. I love I play, right? That sounds ridiculous in both English and Russian. So he should say, также люблю играть на, and then remember when you play an instrument, you play on the instrument. So because he's saying he plays the instrument, this needs to go to на гитаре. Я люблю играть на гитаре. Now, if you just wanted to say, I love the guitar, then yes, we would say гитару. Я люблю гитару. But he's saying he loves to play it. So then that turns into a whole other thing. That turns into prepositional case. Okay, следующее. Бедняшечка. В какие дни ты работаешь? В какие дни ты работаешь? And he says, я работаю на вторнике и на субботу. Okay? Okay. So, бедняжка, you are making a mistake that so many English speakers make because you know that na means on. And in English, we say on Tuesday. We say on Saturday. So why wouldn't it be that way in Russian? Well, this is just one of those anti-Englishisms that we learned in our accusative case unit. Days of the week get v plus accusative case. So that only really affects среда, пятница, суббота. So that only affects 3 of the days of the week. So he should be saying here, вторник is a masculine, doesn't need to change. So he should say, я работаю во вторник. It's a masculine, doesn't change. И в субботу. Суббота is a feminine, so it does need to change. So there's no na when we're talking about days of the week in Russian. There's no na. Okay? Next one. Okay, so real quick, let me review how that whole thing should sound correctly. Я работаю во вторник и в субботу. Вот так. Вот так. Okay, next question. Куда ты часто ходишь? Куда ты часто ходишь? And he says, я часто хожу на магазине. Называется Piggly Wiggly. I decided to use a very American grocery store name, and this is one of those things, if you've never been in the South, you'll never know what this means, but that я часто хожу, let me do it in his accent. Я часто хожу на магазине, называется Piggly Wiggly. Okay, so let's look at our problems here. When it's a destination, we get v or na plus accusative case. Magazine is masculine, so it doesn't need to change, okay? Also, magazine is not an event. It's a building you go into. So he should be doing a v. Okay, so let's correct that little section there. It should be я часто хожу в магазин, and then который называется, and then the store is called Piggly Wiggly. That Piggly Wiggly. This will be interesting for our Russian eavesdroppers to see that there's a store in America called Piggly Wiggly. Okay, хорошо. So again, one more time. Я часто хожу в магазин. That's our accusative case. And it's masculine, so it doesn't need to change. Который называется Piggly Wiggly. Все. Okay. Бедняжка. Что люди в твоей стране любят? Да? As we can see from his hat, he is American. So let's see what Americans love. Американцы люблю свобода, деньги и американскую футбол. Yeah? Okay, so he says, американцы люблю свобода. So first let's look at this verb conjugation problem. Люблю is I love, and we want to they love because we're talking about Americans love. This is okay if you don't know this because this book is technically about the cases and not verbs. I've got a book on verbs coming very soon. So it should be американцы любят, and then свобода is a feminine singular. Freedom is a feminine singular. Let's turn it into accusative. It needs to go to свободу. Свободу. Американцы любят свободу. Деньги, not a feminine singular, so it doesn't need to change. So that's correct. Молодец, бедняжка. And then американский football, he put the, football's a masculine, and bless his heart, he put the adjective into feminine accusative, which that doesn't need to be. It just needs to be американский football. It's masculine, doesn't need to change. So this should sound like this. Американцы любят свободу, деньги и американский футбол. Все. Да, это вот так, вот так. Okay, so let me know in the comments below, were you a bедняжка? How many of those were you able to identify his mistakes and know how to correct them? Was there any new information for you here? Also, would you be able to help bедняжка? Was there anything that you second-guessed yourself on, and then it was a revelation when I corrected bедняжка. Also, do you know what a Piggly Wiggly is? If you're not an American, let me know. Or if you are an American, have you ever heard of Piggly Wiggly? And do you have a Piggly Wiggly in your state? Хорошо, это все на сегодня. Увидимся на следующем уроке. Пока-пока.